When I have time, if I'm bored, I'll do a proper video on how to select a scale for your needs and how scales work and what are different types of scales and why some work better than others, so forth. But this video is just supposed to be a quick review of this particular scale that I unboxed recently, because while there are reviews on Amazon, they're not really adequate. So this is supposed to be like a professional scale for like medical offices and maybe health clubs, and really you probably should not be getting this scale for home use like I got it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it to use for home, but there's just no need for it really. But if you're a fetishist like me, you know, and you like cool gadgets, well, okay, whatever, it works. So the scale, compared to a home scale, it's very heavy, but it's probably about, well, it's like 17 pounds or 18 pounds. I guess it's like, the box was 19 pounds, the spec sheet says 18 pounds, but that includes the display unit, and the display unit itself is 1 pound. So the scale, the bottom part of the scale is like 17 pounds, and the consumer grade scale is like 4 pounds, assuming it's not glass. If it's glass, it's gonna be heavier, but that doesn't mean that it's stronger or better or whatever. So it's just, you know, glass design is gonna be heavier and also more fragile if you drop it, but that extra weight doesn't mean it's more durable. Here it's actually made out of plastic and metal, so there's no glass, but it still weighs 17 pounds, so it's very heavy duty compared to a consumer scale. But however, it didn't really need to be this heavy. What I realized is that the bottom part, the base, is cast metal, but the platform is plastic. And at first I was very surprised, like why wouldn't you build the base and the platform to the same standard of, you know, material and strength and so forth. Well, actually the reason is because this scale also comes in a column version. So in this particular scale, the 752 scale has a remote display which you mount on the wall or put on the table. I mounted mine on the wall, but you can also get it in a column version. That way you don't have to drill holes in the wall and so on. But in order for the column version to not tip over, the base had to be very heavy and weight. So like if you were looking at the Seika 700 balance beam scale, it also has a cast like iron base, because you don't want the shit tipping over. So the weight of this scale is only partially to make it strong, but actually the main reason it's so heavy is for the column to be stable and not tip over. But if you're not getting the column version, you get no benefit from this extra weight. It really didn't need to weigh 17 pounds. It could have been like, I don't know, 7 or 8 pounds, and it would have been still just as strong. So yes, it is twice as strong as a consumer scale, but like if a consumer scale is 4 pounds, they could have made a scale that was 6 or 7 pounds, and it still would have been twice as strong as a consumer scale. But they added like on top of that another 10 pounds just to have it some weight so that it's stable. But fine, I mean, it doesn't make any difference unless you plan to travel with the scale. Then you're screwed, because like it's gonna take up most of your weight in your, you know, luggage allowance or whatever. So aside from the obvious difference in construction, durability, like why would you get a scale like this versus, let's say, a regular bathroom scale? Well, convenience is one thing. I have my display wall mounted at about my eye level, so I don't have to look down, like when I'm weighing myself, the scale is about 3 feet, like let's say like 2 or 3 feet from the wall, and I have the display mounted at like slightly below eye level. So you're standing up straight the way you normally do. You don't have to like try to position your feet on the scale somehow so that you're not blocking the digits and whatever. So convenience is one thing, but that's not really the main reason. The main reason, perhaps, is that a scale, like, well, there are two reasons for me that are important: the software and the power. So let's discuss software because that's the easy part. The consumer scales often have a cheating software installed, which makes the scale show the same weight over and over, so that you don't realize that that the scale is actually inconsistent. So let's say I actually, that's my actual weight right now, 213 pounds. So let's say I step on a scale and it says 213 pounds. I step off, step back on, it says 215 pounds. I step off and step back on, it says 209 pounds. If a scale was showing you numbers like this, you would realize that the scale is garbage, right? Because it's not showing the same weight every time. So when people go to shop for scales in the store, they put the scale on the floor, they step on and off, and they see the same weight twice. Exactly the same. Let's say 213.6 both times, and then third time again 213.6, and the fourth time again 213.6. So they think, wow, this is really like accurate scale. But actually, the only reason it's showing the same weight every time is because it has software installed which makes it show the same number every time. But the readings that it's getting are completely different every time. So the actual accuracy of those bathroom scales may be plus or minus 2 or 3 pounds, but it pretends that it's accurate to within 0.2 pounds. So the great thing, this is the best news about this fucking Healthometer 752KL, and one of the reasons why I got it is because it does not do this. It does not show you fake numbers. It shows you exactly what it reads, and sometimes it will give you, most of the time you get the same number because it actually is that accurate that it reads the same number, but sometimes it will show you different number. Sometimes let's say I'll step on it and it says 213.2, and then 5 seconds later it says 213.4, and then again 213.2. So it's not trying to lie to me. It's being inconsistent by a tiny fraction of a pound, but it's telling me the truth that the error that it's getting, it's letting me see this error. It's not trying to hide this error from me. So if you didn't know how scales work, you would assume that this scale is less accurate than a $20 bathroom scale, but in fact it is about 10 times more accurate. The difference is the tiny inaccuracy that it does have, it's letting you see it. It's not trying to lie to you, whereas the bathroom scales that you can get from like Walmart are hugely inaccurate, but they're completely hiding it from you and lying to you. Now, let's say you wanted to actually let's say you don't want to get a medical grade, very expensive, very heavy scale, and you just want to go to Walmart and buy the best of what they have there for like out of the $20 scales. How would you test it? Well, there's two ways you can test it. You should bring two people and have both people alternate back and forth on the scale. This resets the scale, and if you were to step on the scale over and over and over, it would give you the same result every time. But if two people step on the scale back to back, like A, B, A, B, A, B, it's not going to be able to do this because it resets it, and then you will see different numbers every time. So every time you step on the scale, it's going to be showing you different weight, and you're going to get an actual idea of how inaccurate it is, or how accurate. So that's one way. If you have two people, that's what you should do. But also, what you can do is you can take your phone and weigh yourself with the phone and weigh yourself without the phone. And if it shows you the same weight both times, it's lying. Because your phone is about, well, you should look up how much your phone weighs with the case. But it's more than 0.2 pounds. Okay, and most scales have a resolution of 0.2 pounds. Actually, my wristwatch weighs exactly 0.2 pounds, and on this healthometer scale, I weighed myself with the watch and without the watch, and it gave me two different numbers which were different by exactly 0.2 pounds. So that's very good. You're not gonna get this kind of result with a $20 scale, but you should go and try to get it, you know. Like, if you don't have probably a watch would be unrealistic to try to have the scale detect, but a phone with the case is about half a pound. Okay, a big like let's say a 6-inch screen phone with the case is about half a pound. So when you weigh yourself with and without the phone, it should show you the difference, but most likely it's not going to show you the difference. It's just going to show the exactly same number every time, with and without the phone. And that's how you know that it's lying to you, okay? Because it should be detecting the difference, but it's actually hiding it. So this is one of the two reasons why this kind of scale, this Healthometer 752 scale, why it might be worth it is because it doesn't run the cheating software. But the second reason is, why is it able to get away without running cheating software? Well, that's because I think, based on my research, it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons. Well, like obviously more accurate, like the way it's constructed is one reason, but the more simple reason is the power. And by power I mean the battery. Most consumer scales run on very small battery, which they use because A, it saves them money because they have to include the battery. So the smaller the battery they include, the cheaper it is for them. And B, it allows them to make the scale thin and attractive. And consumers are fucking stupid, and they just buy everything that is thin no matter how low the performance is. So like, people will buy a thinner phone even though it has no battery life. And they actually interviewed Apple's head of design, Johnny Ive, and asked him, they asked him, like, the number one concern of consumers with phones is battery life. Why do you keep making phones so thin and put thin batteries in there which like die after like 1 hour? And he said, well, because consumers are idiots. No, he didn't say that, but I know that's what he was thinking. And they will always buy the thinner product, even though that they know that what they really need is the battery life. They're still gonna buy the thin phone because it looks sexy, and they're fucking idiots. So that's basically the same problem with the scales as well. If you want a thin scale, like, people are so stupid that they think that thin equals advanced. So when they go to the store and they see a thin scale, they'll buy it over the thick one. And the thin scale has to have a small battery in order to be thin. And small battery means low current, and low current means high noise. So the sensors that detect your weight are going to have high noise in them, and they're never going to be able to get a good consistent reading. And in order to mask this inconsistent reading, then they have to run the software that gives you the same number over and over, and then actually the scale has no fucking idea how much you weigh, and just giving you random number and then repeating it. So that's what you get with those $20 scales. Now, what do you get with a professional scale? Well, you get an AC adapter. It plugs into the wall, and it can draw very high current. Well, relatively compared to a bathroom scale. it can draw much higher current and therefore have much lower noise, and it can actually read your weight and doesn't have to lie to you because it's just getting the correct number to begin with. And if you wanted to power this 752KL with batteries, it takes 6 C-cell batteries. C-cell battery is, I don't know, it's the same length as a AA battery, but it's like 3 times as thick. So we're talking about 6 huge batteries versus a consumer scale that takes 1 tiny coin cell battery. So we're probably talking like 50 times bigger in terms of weight and size of batteries. And the batteries are not included, but that's okay because the AC adapter is included and you don't need the batteries. Whereas in the consumer scale you do get the tiny battery, but there is no even option to connect the AC adapter. There's nowhere to plug it in. And maybe the third reason, which is not that important, is the calibration. With a professional scale you can recalibrate it if you need to. With a consumer scale, I don't know, there may be some consumer scales which allow you to do this, but I doubt it that the one you get in Walmart is going to have that. But in this scale you can, if you want to, recalibrate it if you feel that it's not accurate. And in this particular scale, the 752KL, you can use any weight between 60 and 300 pounds to calibrate it, which is very convenient because almost anybody weighs between 60 and 300 pounds. So you can use your own weight to calibrate it. If you know exactly how much you weigh, you can just calibrate it to your own weight. Whereas with some other models from Healthometer, you need to have a set of weights that are specific weights. You need to, for example, have a 100-pound weight, a 200-pound weight, a 300-pound weight, and a 400-pound weight. Nobody has that. Nobody has calibrated weights in 100, 200, 300, and 400 pounds. So even though with some other scales, in theory, you can calibrate them, and in practice, you're never going to be able to do this. With this scale, you can easily recalibrate it both in theory and in practice. So, like, those are some of the reasons to consider a scale like this. But the reason you would not get a scale like this for home use is because the warranty is only 2 years, and you're paying 10 times as much as a bathroom scale, and some of those bathroom scales have 30 years warranty. And this only has 2 years and it costs 10 times as much. So for home use, it's not a very good proposition unless you're looking for very high accuracy for whatever reason. But for like professional use, you would benefit from the construction of the scale, that it's very durable. Like if you were gonna put like a bathroom scale in like a commercial gym, I don't know how long it would last. Maybe it would last a few weeks, maybe it wouldn't. So for like a medical office, I would say definitely get the scale because it's both durable enough to withstand the traffic, and it's accurate enough to give results that are meaningful and not just bullshit, right? But for home use, unless you really want that accuracy, I guess you should just go to Walmart and just test the ones that they got there using the methods I described, and just get the best one that they have and with the longest warranty. But yes, so in actual use, this particular scale is accurate to within about 1/5 of a pound. So sometimes it will show you the one number and then it will show you 0.2 pounds higher, and then maybe it will show you 0.2 pounds lower. But usually, like let's say 8 times out of 10, it will show you the same number again, but not always. So sometimes it will show a different number, so it's telling you that it's not cheating you, but at the same time usually it will show the same number because it's just accurate enough to get to read you to the same number every time, or almost every time. So it's about like realistically this division on the scale is 0.2 pounds, and that's also realistically how accurate it is at measuring. It's accurate to about 0.2 pounds, and it only takes about a second and a half to get the weight. So like once you step on the scale, you see the weight changing for about a second and a half, and then it beeps and you get the result. So it's fast, it's accurate, but it's also very heavy, and the warranty is only 2 years. And if you were gonna get like a balanced beam scale, those can have 5 or even 10 years warranty because there's nothing there to really like break, whereas here is a lot of electronics and anything in there can go bad, like the screen can go bad, some capacitor can go bad, whatever. So it's more complex than a balanced beam scale, therefore it's less reliable. I mean, it's strong, but that doesn't physically unbreakable doesn't equal reliable. The electronics can fail, and that's why this one only has 2 years warranty. So if you understand all these things and you think it's right for you, you can go ahead and get it. I like it.